my name is Josephina, and I'm a sophomore at St. Pius. And today I'm going to be reading you a book. The book is called Shoemaker Martin. Let's begin. In a small town in Russia, there once lived a man called Martin, who earned his living mending shoes. He lived and worked in a basement room. Through the window, all he could see of people passing by were their legs, but he still recognized most of them, as they were scarcely a pair of boots or shoes in the town that he had not mended at one time or another. Martin worked all day until it became too dark for him to see his work. Then he would make a pot of tea, light the lamp, and take down his big Bible from the shelf. He read many pages, and the more he read, the happier he felt. One winter evening, he went on reading until it was very late, and he reached the story of the rich man who invited Jesus into his home. Martin thought hard. If Jesus comes to visit me, what would I say? What would I do? How would I welcome him? Still thinking about this, Martin fell asleep. Martin, a voice called suddenly. Martin woke up, but nobody was there. Then he heard the voice again. It said, "Make sure you watch the street tomorrow, because I shall be coming." Martin sat up and rubbed his eyes. He had really heard those words, or was it just a dream? He looked carefully around the room, but saw nobody. He turned out the lamp and soon went back to sleep. The next morning, Martin got up very early, before dawn. He lit the stove and put the kettle of water on it. And as he ate his breakfast, he looked out the window, wondering whether it had been a dream last night, or whether he really would see some unfamiliar shoes belonging to a very special stranger. Still pondering, he set out to work. Just as he was cutting a piece of leather, Martin heard footsteps outside. He looked up, but saw poor Stefan, the street sweeper. Stefan was stamping on his feet and blowing into his freezing hands in an effort to get warm. Quickly, Martin opened the window and called, "Come on in, Stefan, and warm up a bit. The kettle is just boiling." Stefan staggered in. "Don't bother to wipe your feet. Sit down by the stove." Stefan sipped the hot tea that Martin gave him, and when he felt warm again, he thanked Martin gratefully before leaving. "Don't mention it. Come any time," replied Martin. Martin drank a cup of tea himself, then made some cabbage soup for later. When next he looked out the window and he saw a young woman standing huddled out in bad weather with a baby in her arms. She was trying to wrap up the baby to shelter it from the cold wind, but she scarcely had anything to wrap it in except her thin, shabby dress. Martin went up the door and called her in. He gave her some of his hot soup and brought his old coat to put her around her shoulders. It was big enough to protect her and the baby. Afterward, he played with the baby and made it laugh. Finally, Martin fetched some money from his old trunk and gave it to his mother to buy milk. Soon, the poor woman bowed and thanked Martin most gratefully before she left, feeling much better. Martin finished off his soup and cleared away the dishes. Later, as he sat up and worked again, a shadow fell across the window. Martin looked up eagerly, but it was just a townsfolk passing. Some of these he knew and some he didn't, but nobody in particular caught his attention or seemed like a special visitor. All at once he heard shouting outside on the street. A market woman was dragging along a poorly dressed boy who had just stolen one of her apples. She tugged him by his hair and the boy protested as he struggled to get away. Martin hurried outside and separated them. "Let them go, grandmother," he begged. "He won't do it again. If we punish someone so harshly for taking an apple, what punishments would we expect for our sins that are far, far worse?" The boy and the woman looked at Martin and then looked at each other. Quietly, the boy asked the old woman to forgive him and offered to carry her basket along the road. Martin wanted to finish stitching one of his boots that he had to deliver tomorrow. Soon it was dark. The lamplighter passed by, lighting the street lamps. Martin finished the boot. Then he put his tools away and swept the scraps of leather from the floor. He took down his lamp from the nail on the wall and placed it on the table so he could read it once again, the passage from the Bible that had been so much on his mind since that last night. Suddenly, he had the feeling that somebody was moving behind him. He looked around, and this time it seemed like there were some people really in the room. But Martin could not make out who they were. The voice whispered in his ear, "Martin, didn't you recognize me?" "Who?" "Me!" And out of the shadow stepped Stefan, smiling. "This was me too," the voice said again, and the woman with the baby came forward. She smiled and the baby laughed. "And me as well," the voice said, and an old woman appeared with the child who had taken the apple. Both of them were smiling. Martin was amazed, and then they all vanished. Then the shoemaker realized that the dream had come true after all. Jesus really did visit them that day, and Martin had been overtaken with joy. He began reading the Bible where it had fallen open. It was a page different from the page he had read last night. And at the top of the page, he read, "Immense as ye have done it unto at least as of these beneath, ye have done it unto me." Merry Christmas from your friends at St. Pius, and have a happy New Year.